Welcome to A Pod of Wings and Filth, where two voracious fantasy readers dive into the magical, gritty, and sometimes downright filthy world of fantasy.
In this podcast, we chat about our favorite fantasy books, from dragons, magic, to the dark and twisted corners of the fantasy realms.
I'm Morgan, and I think people who don't count audiobooks as reading are just jealous of audiobook readers' reading comprehension skills.
And I'm Heather, and I believe fae are only fae if they have long, sharp canines and super pointy ears.
We've got a lot of opinions, a lot of passion, and even more books to talk about. So grab your favorite brew, maybe a magical artifact or two, and join us as we get into all things magic, wings, and a little bit of filth.
Content warning. Expect spice, swearing, spoilers, strong opinions on dubious character choices. This is an adult show, meant to discuss adult things, unfiltered for an adult audience. Today's episode will contain spoilers for all of the Serpent and the Wings of Night. If you're not ready for unhinged fandom energy, turn back now. Otherwise, spread your wings, grow your horns, and let's get filthy.
Hi, Heather.
Hi, Morgan! How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so excited we're here again.
I know, me too. I'm so excited to get into our second deep dive of Serpent. It's going to be so good.
Oh my gosh, this whole entire parts 3, 4, and 5 are so jam-packed full of action and so much character development. It's wild. I went through these parts. They're the longest, and I went through them the fastest.
Yes. They are, you said, action-packed. They are truly like bang, 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 bang. Let's go. I'm so excited to get in. Are you ready for my summary? Okay. In part 3, Waning Moon, Oraya begins to see just how much of her life has been shaped by Vincent's control and how badly she wants out. When he finally admits she's from Salinae, it's not a comforting reveal. It's a flashing red flag. His love is looking more like a leash, especially as Raihn, with all his brutal honesty and green flags, starts offering her something far more powerful: choice. Misha crashes into the story as a chaotic good, and Oraya begins to shift emotionally, magically, and relationally, training with Raihn, blasting him out a window, sorry, King, and discovering that maybe, just maybe, she's done being her father's perfect weapon. Oraya and Raihn find a rhythm in part 4, Half Moon, in battle, in banter, and in the human districts where she's reminded she has no idea how to be human anymore. Misha tries to help with magic. Cute, not useful, and just when things start to feel safe, the Moon Palace explodes. Oraya soars into action, literally, and unleashes some terrifying world-shifting magic to save her friend. The Rishon are blamed, Vincent starts a war, and Oraya starts seeing just how ruthless and manipulative her father really is. The Half Moon trial bonds her to Raihn, mind and body, forcing them to fight through horrors as one. When they emerge, battered, burned, but together, it's clear they're no longer just allies. There's something more. As we enter part 5, Crescent Moon, everything Oraya's buried comes roaring to the surface. Love, trauma, power, and the sharp ache of wanting more. Falling for Raihn forces her to re-examine her past, her desires, and her identity, especially as Vincent's control flickers between praise and manipulation like a broken light switch. She embraces her humanity at a vampire ball, shares raw truths and hotter-than-hell blood moments with Raihn, and finally begins to wonder what she wants for herself, not what Vincent dreamed for her. The Crescent trial is a fever dream of poisoned blood and haunted ruins, but even there, Oraya listens to her instincts, saves Raihn, and chooses love over fear. When he tells her she was right, when he sees her scars and her soul, that's real. That's love. And it is everything.
Oh gosh, so good. Okay.
I'm so excited to talk about it.
I know. So much happens and it starts right away. So we left off last episode with Raihn telling Oraya basically the brutal truth.
Mm-hmm.
He laid it out for her, and she at this point has agreed to their very tentative alliance because she's able to rationalize with herself that she has no other choice and this is the best choice of her survival and she won't make it if she doesn't. But also, I think that rationalization is because she wanted to too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she has to convince herself a little bit that it's the rational, intelligent thing to do so that she can allow herself to more outwardly want it.
Yep. and right away too, we have conflict with Vincent.
Mm-hmm.
Right away. So Daddy Vampire is not happy that she's made allies, which right away,
yeah,
big red flag. Okay, so I understand that he's not going to be super happy with a Rishon Vampire and Raihn in particular. This is not the guy he wants his daughter around. totally understand. However, he's lying to her. And at the end of and it's clear here for the first time, I feel like, that he's not just manipulating her. He is flat out lying to her to get what he needs from her.
I had an interesting thought about that when I was rereading it last night to prep for today. At no point does Vincent offer an alternative.
No.
Right? He rails against her. He's so critical of her choice of a Rishan vampire, which makes sense, right? We've talked about like the Rishan and the Hiyaj are at odds constantly, causing wars back and forth in this battle for power over the Nightborn. But she acknowledges there's like a third of all of the contestants are Rishan. And she's like, what would you have me do? Like, I need an ally. He's a really good one. He's an incredibly strong vampire. But Vincent never offers her an alternative to this. Like, genuinely, what would you have me do? That's where the control piece really borders on manipulation as opposed to doing this for love, where it's like, you just want to tell me all the ways I did it wrong, but you don't actually want to be a part of the solution where you think I could do it better.
Oh my gosh, that right there, all of that right on the nose. That's exactly what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, okay, so you don't like this. That's fine. Give them another route to take.
Right.
That's just 101, like, common behavior between people. That's healthy.
Right. Do
But
not.
That's not this.
No.
This is about obedience and power.
This is about obedience, truly, right? Like, he wants to still have control over her. He wants to tell her all the ways she's doing it wrong, but he doesn't want to be a part of owning that maybe she actually is making the best decisions she can, considering the circumstances, which is a much more healthy take, which Vincent wouldn't know if it hit him in the fucking face.
You're so right. But this is such big foreshadowing on that. And what comes up further too is exactly this, is her asking questions and her thinking for herself. No longer is she going to be a pawn to him in whatever his plans are with her. It is her being obedient to him so he can control her. Therefore, she's not a threat. Because what have we learned about all of the other heirs? They are threats, and therefore they must be neutralized. Vincent has done it all up here with her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we talked about this in our last episode a little bit. We're going to talk about Ibrahim all the time because, oh my God, man, right? His parents genuinely hobbled him, right? They took his teeth, they hobbled his legs, they cut his wings. They did all this like gruesome, horrific hobbling him to impair him from taking power. Vincent didn't do that to Oraya physically. He did it mentally, entirely mentally. And that is deeply fucked. I don't know which is worse.
I was just going to say the same thing. I really don't. They both have the same intentions. And as we see and continue to see throughout the story, she hears his voice in her head. And in the first few parts, she's obedient to it. She listens to it. It's helped her in the past, though. This is a tool that has been useful to her and saved her in the past.
Keeps her safe.
She believes. Yes. And what does Raihn keep telling her? You're safe.
You're
safe with me. But he means it.
He mean it.
Totally different way than Vincent, because it's coming from a place of goodness where he actually cares about her well-being, not on how her well-being reflects his potential well-being. And that's how we start this off. That is how it begins. Oh, right away too, we get to find out that there are turned vampires.
Yes, we learn that Raihn and Misha are turned vampires. So they are not born, they were human before. And we find out that to be turned, it's like 2 in every 3 turnings kills someone.
Yeah.
So the fact that there are even 2 turned vampires in the Kejari as a whole is like statistically impossible. But it's one of the reasons that Oraya starts to realize that both Mish and Raihn remind her of humans.
But they're more like her than they aren't, because she's the same. Even though she's human, she lives a life of half and half. She's a human that lives amongst vampires. So she doesn't feel her human side. Whereas I feel like Raihn and Misha, they sat there, they still feel their human side and are existing in the vampire world. So it's almost the opposite for them. And it's so interesting to watch that mirror back and forth. And Raihn is aware of it.
Yeah.
Raihn out of all of them is the most aware of it.
But in finding out that they're turned, it's such an interesting conversation because Oraya is so shocked. And from the way that the Oraya is observing it, that Misha and Rain are like, how couldn't you tell? How did you not know?
It's because she wasn't been given any of the information. That's the thing. She only knows because she's been around no one other than Vincent. She only knows what Vincent has told her. That's it. Her whole life has been the story he's told her, and that is the truth. She might have her suspicions and her intuitions because, as we've learned, Oraya is extremely intelligent. She's intuitive. She solves problems immediately. So it doesn't take too long for her to start putting these pieces together. And she even acknowledges in her own inner monologue that she's questioning these things. And then she understands that she's also often rationalizing them, which I appreciate as a reader so much. Thank you for giving me a character that is self-aware, emotionally mature. My adult brain appreciates that so much.
Yeah, you do not have to write a young female main character who is dumb and can still be naive, but doesn't have to be dumb.
They are two different things. They are not
Correct.
the same thing at all. And you have some characters that we read that will say that even. I may be naive, but I'm not innocent, or I'm not dumb.
A little bit of both, friend. Well, and that is way more of a tell, don't show, whereas you and I both prefer authors who write show, don't tell. So with Oraya actually absorbing all of this and we're getting her processing it intellectually, intelligently in her mind, where she's rationalizing these things, but she's recognizing she is having an emotional response to some of these things. Fear is only a collection of physical responses. Some of it is really cold and calculated because that's what she's been taught. But a lot of it is actually just smart. Like you're watching her learn in real time, which I know you and I have talked about is just genuinely our favorite way to do fantasy.
Yes.
But it's one of the things that makes her such an incredible female main character. She is so rational, but curious and open-minded, but also recognizes where she's close-minded at times.
Yes. She's constantly observing. I think one of the times that we see it because her magic, which is it's such like a weird thing too, because at first we're like, why would she have magic? She's human. That's my question. I'm like, I didn't know humans had magic because at this point we haven't heard of a human having magic. So Misha tells her you have magic and it's shy magic.
It's shy magic.
I know, but she's not getting anywhere with it because Misha is the one who is pushing her until Rain does, and Rain pushes her to the edge. And then all of a sudden it's this explosive part where she puts this big bad vampire through a window and kicks his ass, which is awesome, by the way.
My husband Patrick was also reading, he has now read this so that he could listen to our episodes.
Patrick, you're the best.
And he and I are really big Disney Pixar fans. So he got to that part of the book, literally paused the audiobook, closed the book, looked at me, and he goes, "We jumped out a window from Big Hero 6." And I just lost it.
God, it's so perfect. It's so perfect.
I go, yeah, good thing he's got wings, huh? Because she blasts him, man.
Yeah.
And I really liked it actually was a response to her fear, right?
Yes.
She is constantly, when we joke, fear is a collection of physical responses. She says that once every 3 pages, I think, because it is such a mantra for her. So for they're trying to train, they're doing this training montage, and they're really fucking struggling to figure out because Oraya doesn't know how to let anyone be close to her. And we have started to get glimpses of a past experience. We don't quite know what it is yet, but we're starting to get these flashbacks into maybe a bad past experience with a vampire. And so this is the first time she's ever really intentionally letting a vampire other than Vincent be in her close physical proximity without her immediately killing them. She's been trained to, if a vampire, a literal predator to you, comes that close, be prepared to kill them. But this is, she has to let him get close because they're allies in the next trial. And so he gets closer and closer and closer and is intentionally pushing her. And she says, back the fuck up, back the fuck up, back the fuck up, and then blasts him out a window entirely based in fear. Her magic shows up to protect her, which is beautiful. And also, holy shit, girl, what were you hiding in there?
Exactly, but she didn't know. And that's the interesting part. Okay, so we already understand at this point anyway that Vincent's love is conditional. We understand now that he's not the protector that we thought he was. I still feel like he does care about her as much as he's capable.
I would agree with that.
It's not just purely self-serving, his relationship with her.
He's also a bad dad, but yes.
Yes, he's a terrible dad. So we hear his voice constantly too, but this is the first time we hear somebody else's voice. She hears Rain's voice, and that is like this moment. Also, we've seen what Rain can do. He could have countermeasured her. Now,
Absolutely.
he wasn't expecting that.
Thank God he has wings and was able to fly back in the window, and he loses his shit and is like, what the fuck? You've been hiding this from me. And she's like, internally, I'm hiding it from myself. I didn't know it was in there, but I can't admit it to you.
Yes, so Vincent's love is conditional, all of those things. But did he know? Did he know that she had magic? Did he know that she was powerful? That's what I need to know.
I think we do know he knows she has magic, and he's tried to train her.
But just like little sparks, right?
Yeah, and
Something.
and again, his voice in attachment to her magic is, it's not good enough. It's these little wisps. Some of the words she uses to describe it is, it's useless. And then she fucking blasts this huge ass vampire out a window. And you're like, man, that doesn't seem useless to me.
Well, because she had to be so vulnerable to get there. And that is the complete antithesis of who and what she is. Which is why this next few parts are important, because she does start to become more vulnerable.
Yeah. And realizes that her trust in Vincent might be a little too obedient, and to do so fully with no criticism might be misplaced, which is a little heartbreaking for her. She doesn't admit it. I don't think she admits that it feels sad to her.
We see it. We see it. Like we see her with Septimus when she takes the cigarillo. She knows, and I think even her inner monologue, she's saying it. She's like, I know this is something Vincent says we shouldn't do, but instead of going to see Vincent, she goes for a walk. And does some things that would be considered risk taking from Vincent. And she talks to a vampire and takes a cigarillo from him that she knows is dangerous and could kill her. And she does it anyway. And I think that's one of those moments where she's like, okay, I'm starting to think on my own here, and I'm going to do what I want on my own. I'm capable. I just blew Rain out the fucking window.
We have a little bit of a flashback because she smelled the cigarillo smoke and thought of Ilana.
Yeah.
So we're having all of these different, more tender and vulnerable parts of her show up. And even though she recognizes that maybe she's put herself in a dangerous position, I think she also is still trusting herself in that moment, which is part of Vincent's training. Yeah, I shouldn't be approaching a stranger by this gross river in the middle of the night to ask him for a cigarillo. But also, I just blasted this guy out a window. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine.
But that's where we get to see the vulnerability being strength.
Right.
And for someone like her, and I empathize with this on so many levels, but it's a difficult thing to cross that threshold when you have envisioned strength only coming from one place. You think that that's weakness when that's where you can really draw all of your power.
I'm glad you said that, because the very next day is trial 2, which is the maze trial. And even though they don't need to be allies yet, they choose to be in the trial. And we get Oraya realizing that there are humans in the trial, basically used as entertainment, as parts of the story. And she's so horrified.
Yeah, because they're treated like animals.
Right. And she's horrified to find this little girl who's been trapped under some of the rubble, which, like, okay, symbolism, here you go. It took me until the second reread to be like, oh, that's her. Too. She's saving herself in that moment. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But Rain helps that human girl get to safety and chooses the more vulnerable, sensitive reaction to what Oraya did. And we know that we would have never gotten that from Vincent in a million years. My question for you about this trial, you basically come to understand that they are dropped into this maze and they have to fight their way out of the maze. Great, fine. And everyone is dropped into a place where they have to fight another contestant and
to get basically to the door.
Yeah, right? They have to drop their dead weight on the lever in order to get through the door. It's very Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Anyways, she's paired up with Ibrahim and she doesn't kill him, but she basically poisons him a whole bunch with her blades, and enough that he is on the thing. He manages to get through in the end?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know either. I'm like, is it an insinuation that he's that clever that he found a way out?
We never get any answer to that, but there was a very specific mechanical reason.
I know.
So that was just interesting. because Ibrahim makes it very, very far in this tournament. And you're like, I just don't even understand how you get through these basic obstacles.
Okay, so now that you've said it and I'm hearing it from you instead of my own brain, I have a
Oh, a
possible
theory.
explanation. Yes, maybe that's how everyone else sees Oraya getting through everything. They can't see everything she's doing to survive. How the hell is this little tiny human making it through all of these things?
Yes.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe he's a mirror of that.
I really like
Maybe.
that because everyone underestimates her. It's one of the reasons we love Raihn so much is because he never underestimates her.
Yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, I think with Ibrahim, he's an interesting mirror to Oraya.
I think that's why she feels that kinship to him.
Yeah. But yeah, that trial is so interesting to me. The way that she saves this human and Raihn helps her save this human.
Yeah, he's proving himself as an ally. He has nothing to really gain by saving her at this point.
No.
And he still has Misha,
Right.
so he could do without her.
He totally could. And there's absolutely no reason for him to save this human child. But this is also as we're starting to learn that he was turned. And so he has as much empathy and sympathy for these humans that are trapped in this vicious vampire world as she does.
Yeah, I think after this trial, where we start to see Oraya is showing more signs of actually living her life rather than just surviving.
Mm-hmm.
Because after this one, Raihn did help her. She's smart, so she knows that he could have let her and the kid die, and that by all means he should have.
Mm-hmm.
And she does, I think, especially now that she blew him out the damn window. I think that part of her subconsciously in the back of her mind is playing that she can defend herself if it comes down to it. So I think after this one, she actually relaxes a little bit more.
And as she's healing after this trial is when she starts to go back out and Raihn follows her without letting her know. And she starts killing more vampires in the human districts. And this is where they learn that this is how they should have been training the whole time. He has absolutely no moral qualms with murdering these vampires the way that she is. And they realize that actually by basically joining up and being this little like vigilante duo, that they train beautifully together. And they actually have really beautiful instincts with each other. And he shows her that he got that little girl to safety. That moment was very sweet.
He's so good.
Yeah, truly.
I will continue to say this, but he's one of my favorites. The best part, I think, is the partnership feels natural. And you definitely feel that he's pushing. He's pushing for it, but he's not pushing hard. But now they've bonded over their murder and death together. And like you said, they find that they have chemistry fighting, which for me is A+ always.
Yeah. It's really
imagining
sexy. It's really sexy. And also, Carissa writes a fight scene like no one else. I love it. It's so visceral, but it's also not overly detailed where I need to know every stroke and right hand and left hand and this foot and that foot. Like, it's so visceral. You feel like you're in it, but you don't need all of the little like teeny tiny what exactly is happening. I'm going to say it a million fucking times through these deep dives. I love Carissa Broadbent. Where does this stuff come from in your mind?
She's a goddess. I just worship her. I do.
But not Nyaxia, because I don't think she's fickle.
No, I mean, she does torture us a little bit, but the payoff is worth it because all of the things that the characters are going through are things that we've all experienced. It's just exaggerated through these fantastical storylines.
Mm-hmm.
And she touches on real human emotions and real struggles and real relationship stuff. And then she puts it into these fantastical worlds and adds all of these high stakes. We can all feel that these characters and these people, they feel so real.
Yeah, especially you and I both identify very strongly with Oraya in this like strength precedes vulnerability sometimes and gets in the way of us being authentic or real with other people, like hyper independent eldest daughters, I should say. It's just seeing ourselves in these moments where she's starting to open up to Raihn. I will admit it's why it strikes me so deeply. Is I absolutely see myself in that. I need you to be vulnerable first so that then I can be vulnerable with you. And when you open that door, I probably will meet you in it wholeheartedly, but it might take a little while. And with Oraya, I think that's where the kind of parallel of her shy magic is like, is it her magic that's shy or is it she that's shy because she doesn't know how to be like real with people? Because she's literally never had serious relationships with anyone because she's been literally locked away in a castle.
Yep. In a room all by herself. Yep. Yeah, I totally understand it. I think one of the reasons this book connected with me so much too is because it was one of the first books where I ever experienced that. It was one of the first times where I felt like I saw pieces of myself that wasn't just little bits here and there. It was like, oh, there are deep, deep parts of me that are being reflected back right now. And I felt really seen. And I'm like, it's not just me, and I can do this, and it's okay. And that release right there, that's worth hours of therapy.
Truly.
I'm telling my therapist friend. It is.
And also, your therapist wants to hear this.
Yes. It's one of the, I think it's one of the most, for me, reading her books, it's one of the most enjoyable things is being able to tap into my own vulnerability that way and understand that it's not a weakness to be vulnerable.
No, it's the vulnerability is a part of the strength. Truly.
Yes.
Truly.
Yes.
Okay, we got to talk about the explosion. Because the Moon Palace, we think everything is safe. They're like training and green flagging all over the city together. And then the Moon Palace explodes.
And it happens when Raihn and Oraya are off gallivanting.
Well, they were in the bar when it happened, right? So she's drinking her first beer, which I LOL'd about for like 10 minutes. I was like, she's literally drinking her first beer. This is hilarious.
Yes. And I love the irony that Raihn tells her that she's safe when she's in the room of humans because she feels less safe around the humans because she doesn't know how to behave.
She doesn't even know how to talk to anybody, which is when we talk about Vincent's control of her making sense. It does, like the way he trains her and the way they talk and the way he teaches her to protect herself from vampires. Sure, that makes sense. But in doing so, he completely hobbled her ability to communicate with her own people.
Which totally intentional.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want her to connect with any vampires either. He doesn't want her to connect with anyone. He wants her just for him.
Which is gross and creepy.
Narcissist. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I hate it. And I think he is a really, really good example of a narcissist and why it's so confusing to be in a relationship with one, because he comes across as well-intended. He shows love and affection, has built the world around you that you only understand that. And when he is cruel or when he does put you in the cold, it literally feels like the world is ending because he's isolated you from everybody else. Your perception of reality is that person's reality. Vincent can seem really charming to even us as readers. Like, I have a friend that thinks he's the hottest shit ever. And I'm like, oh, sweetie, my dear Elena, if you're listening, I love you so much.
You sweet summer child.
I also know she has a predilection for the bad boys too. So
that's fair. I would say there's a difference between the bad boys and having a thing for the villains, man.
Yeah. She has a thing for the villains. But once I heard that, it made me want to look at his character differently and try to observe him that way. And I think that's why he is supposed to be charming and sexy. I've had enough experiences with narcissists in my life that for me, I'm immediately turned off by him. Like immediately, I'm like, I don't care how gorgeous or smooth you are.
No.
Yeah. Oh, you seem like you care about her, but I know deep down that you care more about yourself. And I think you're supposed to feel conflicted about Vincent because Oraya does.
Yes. The way we follow her story through her eye, I mean, this is first person through her eyes. You are not supposed to really understand. You're not supposed to. She is coming to know it and is confused about it and doesn't quite know what to make of it and is realizing that her feelings are changing and sitting in that bar with Raihn right before it explodes. She's like, oh, this is possible? That I could be both? I could be this vicious hunter killer and be normal and chill.
Raihn's sitting there doing it by example. He's vampire boy. He's been a vampire for centuries.
Hundreds of years.
Yeah, and he's chill and relaxed, and she observes him as being like his whole entire demeanor changing once he's around the humans. They don't even seem to notice that he's not human, even with his large size, as we continually remind ourselves.
Full, we don't get any proud length from Carissa ever.
God, never. Carissa, thank you. That is like the worst. I don't get mad if I hear the word length as referred to a penis, but I prefer not to use the term length at all.
And proud. I think for me, the grossness is around proud. I'm like, I don't need to know that your dick has feelings.
No, exactly. It's a dick. It has one thing that it needs to do. And we are all aware of it, and it is not pride.
I don't need another penis with an ego.
It's so silly. Yeah, I hate it. I've always hated it. Carissa has never written proud length, and some authors that I really love have occasionally.
Yeah.
And I still love you, but I get mad.
Yeah, well, it's angering. Anyways, dick size aside, the Moon Palace explodes and we panic because Misha's in there.
Yep, this is the first time Oraya gets flown too.
Yes.
And she was scared at first, and then she finds that she loves it, that it feels free, and she can't imagine why they would do anything but fly, and she didn't even want it to end. And this is in a very, very like tense, upsetting moment too, and she's still finding joy, which is a very different Oraya right there. But they get to the palace. Mish is in bad shape.
I was going to say she's injured, and also the explosion is of night fire. So we are to assume that it is a nightborn vampire of some kind. And we are led to believe that it is the Rishon, but we don't actually ever get any hard evidence of that. And Mish is surrounded by candles and also demons that are trying to eat her. And so we are sort of left questioning, like, what was she doing? She also has wings in there somewhere. We've never seen Misha's wings, and I can't wait until we do. But we are led to not understand why she didn't just escape.
Yeah.
Why she didn't leave.
Because their apartment is okay. So where was she? What was going on? And like for me as a reader, this whole entire sequence is chaos, which I think we're supposed to feel that way because that's how Oraya and Raihn feel. They don't really know what's going on. They're just trying to solve the problem and save their friend. But this is where the whole entire plot and everything also shifts.
Yes.
Because now the outside world is now infiltrating their little secluded moon palace, which is what it has felt like up to this point, is that we are in our own little bubble here. And because it's a Rishon attack, or they believe it is, Vincent starts taking all the Rishon vampires that have survived and decides that he's going to interrogate them.
Yes.
This is a really gross part, but this is also a really important part, I think, for Oraya. Because Jasmine, she is the general for Vincent. She shows up at the apartment door and she demands that Raihn be interrogated.
Yeah, submits himself. And this is also one of the first times that Oraya realizes that her place as Vincent's heir means absolutely nothing. So she thinks that she will be able to convince him to not break him. I obviously need this ally, which is true, by the way. And also, I'm your daughter. Does this not mean anything to you, basically? Like, you should release him because I asked you to. And if I trust him, you should trust him. And Jasmine is like, lol, no, he has to go. And is like, either you can come now or I can beat you up and then you come. And so Raihn eventually, Oraya is like, I will protect Mish. I will do my best. Just go. Like, clearly don't get beat up. And she convinces him to submit, which is an interesting piece that happens because he trusts her as well.
Yes. And the other aspect of that is just means like, you can't trust him. And Oraya doesn't say anything, but in her mind, she already knows that he didn't do it because of the way he reacted to Mish. I think she knew it anyway, but that for her was like, no, this makes no sense. I am an intelligent person. I understand what I'm seeing. This is not adding up. I am not dumb and I'm not buying this. But she also wasn't dumb enough to say it to Jasmine. She told Raihn, go and I will take care of Mish. And then this part is also terrible, what she has to do to save her friend.
Yeah. So one of the things that happens after the explosion is many contestants died, which okay, I guess that's one way to weed out some of the people in the tournament. Yeah. Yeah, I know we do a content warning at the top of this show, but sometimes I don't know if it's enough for how brutal some of these books are that we read. But the contestants who are injured enough that they cannot clearly go on with the tournament submit themselves to Nyaxia for basically a proposal to withdraw from the tournament. And Raihn and Oraya help Mish submit her withdrawal because she's so injured from the explosion. And we find out shortly after Raihn was taken that her withdrawal was denied.
Yep. What the fuck? That was 100% my reaction. I'm like, why the fuck not? Why wouldn't you? You let all these others too on top of it. So, and if Vincent has anything to do with any of this, an influence on any of it, which I believe he does.
He's the king.
Exactly.
Who the fuck else would?
And creepy minister guy, which I forgot. Okay, that reaction is perfect. I don't remember. Morgan and I have shared notes, and the way she describes him, it is so hilarious. I tee-heed for like a month about it. I'm not kidding.
So the minister, I wrote, the minister seems like a proper old creep and is a flesh vessel for Nyaxia's will. Gross. I'd like to remove the words flesh vessel from my brain now.
For weeks, I had that stuck in my head. And every time he was mentioned in the story thereafter, that's what I was thinking of. But he's a disciple of Vincent. So I don't trust shit at this point.
Mhm.
And the part, again, that I get so frustrated where I'm going, okay, Vincent, you want her to win. Why are you screwing her over? These are her allies. I know they're your enemies, but she needs them for, at least the next trial.
Mhm.
After that, do your worst, buddy. But don't you want them to help her get through there?
Well, and the irony of it is that by torturing Raihn the way that he does, and when Raihn comes back, his entire back has clearly been ripped apart. Whipped is how I imagine some of these wounds were given. We find out it's because he refuses to show his wings, and so they rip apart his back instead. But by torturing him so brutally, they force him and Oraya closer together, which actually ends up making them better allies because he comes back the night before the next trial, which is the actual ally one where they need to be allied together. And she has to stitch him back up. And while doing so, she says, you have to keep me talking. You have to distract me somehow. And so they're sharing these honesties and these vulnerabilities with each other while she basically has him on his knees, lol, in front of her, which I love. I love the image of a man on his knees in front of a woman. Hoo-wee. But he's bleeding and she's stitching him and distracting him with these sort of quips and one-liners, and they have this delicious banter. But basically Vincent seals his own fate in this, right? Like by taking him away and torturing him, he actually drove Raihn and Oraya a lot closer before the trial.
Which is exactly what can happen when you try to squeeze the noose too tightly on the thing you're trying to control.
Yes.
And right after that sequence, she decides to go meet with Vincent, has one of her regular meetings with him. So she shows up, and one of the first things she says, and oh my gosh, this is one of those beautiful Carissa lines. She says something along the lines of, the 8-year-old version of herself saw her father, but the adult version of herself knew it wasn't him. She recoiled from him.
Yes.
She's finally seeing him as he truly is. And Raihn had told her right before this meeting too, this is what he wanted. He's the one who probably did this. He's wanted this war for hundreds of years, and now he has it. He's been very cautious about what he said about Vincent up to this point. He's been very reserved. We all know that he's an enemy, but he has not shown that to Oraya.
Oraya notes it, but she doesn't really challenge him on it.
No.
She just takes it in, absorbs it, and she had to go basically offer my blood to the creepy minister in order to get Misha withdrawn from the tournament, which, like, damn, talk about taking fate into your own hands, literally.
Doing something she's never let anybody do and would never do and wouldn't have even considered at the beginning of this book. And not only did she do it, she did it for another vampire.
Yeah. Which Vincent cannot understand at all.
No.
And she doesn't want to say it out loud because she doesn't want to admit it, that he might be as vicious and ruthless and maybe truly cold-hearted as she always maybe thought he was, but never wanted to admit out loud.
But he says those words back to her. He pretty much says, hey, we get to do this now. We finally have our opportunity. He says it to her like, you should be excited. We've got our chance here. But now she's met these Raihn, and she's like, they're vampires and they're just people. So she sees it from their side. And by the time she gets to his side, she sees the brutality of it. And she says so. And I think this is one of the first times that she snaps back or challenges him at all. And he did not like it.
No, he did not. Well, because she asks, A, if he can help with Misha, and he says no. And then B, please don't break my ally. I need him. And he basically goes, you can get another one.
Yes.
She goes, no, I can't. The trial is tomorrow. Please do not break him. And we get our first little foreshadowing tidbit in the conversation with Vincent where Oraya goes, do the Raihn have an heir? And the answer is supposed to be no. So we find out in this moment that when Vincent won his Kejari 200 years ago, his ask for Nyaxia was to A, make him the most powerful, and to wipe out or to eliminate the Raihn heirline. So there's no one to literally challenge Vincent for his crown. But in this conversation, she goes, well, maybe they have an heir again. because we know that Nyaxia likes her children to be squabbling. And so even though he had asked for that, she might have decided at some point to give that up. And of course, once you've read the book, you're like, oh my God, it's Raihn.
Yes. Yes. Like,
And
you know it. The second you read that line, you're like, oh, it's him.
It's got to be Raihn, right? There have been 2 mentions up until now that there are scars on his back prior to him being tortured, or sorry, interrogated.
Same.
Exactly. Same. And she gets really close to asking him about it as she finishes stitching up his back after being tortured. And he goes, wait. You've run out of questions. You're done. No more questions. And that's our first like, wait, what? Something is there.
She was too close to everything.
This is one of those moments where me as a passenger princess even was like, something is here. I don't know what it is, but I'm waving generally. Pay attention to this. I don't know what it is, but even I am noticing that something is up.
Well, it's so much at once too. But yeah. Once I think mostly it's Vincent's behavior that's so alarming, because at this point he's been so controlled. And even when he's been a little bit nastier or bit back or put Oraya into her place at this point, it's still been with some reserve. Here he was talking to her like she was a subordinate, like she was someone who should fall in line and answer to him. This was not, and she saw it immediately when she approached him, and she's like, that's not my father.
That's not him.
Yeah.
That's not him. That is Vincent the King.
It's Vincent the King, and I am just one of his subjects that may or may not be getting in his way.
So then we get the actual ally trial.
Yes.
And oh my God, this was the moment where I was like, Oraya is a genius.
Yep.
Like, she is genuinely so fucking smart. But they drink this potion and it enters them into the tournament because magic.
And I love that they don't explain all the details of how these things work either. We just jump into it. I'm like, oh, it just exists like this? Okay, thank you for not spending 2 pages explaining it to me. I appreciate you, Carissa. I don't want it.
Right. I don't want it. I don't need it. I just need to know. Ooh, magic. Great. Yes. Amazing. So they drink this potion and it fuses their bodies and their minds, which is just wild. And they basically enter and they're in 2 different cells across the arena from each other. And they have to not only work together, because that's not just like we have to fight other vampires together or demons or hellhounds or whatever the fuck is in this coliseum of horrors, but our literal bodies are fused to, like, when I take a step, you feel me take a step. When I get cut, your body bleeds.
Yes. It's so cool. I love mind stuff like this. I love it when people can speak in each other's minds. I love it when people can like feel each other's emotions. I love it when they're shared anything in this way. It is so my jam.
Yes.
This was awesome.
This felt like Carissa's version of a fated mate bond.
Yes.
Which they don't have in the story, but that's what it felt like, where they're talking into each other's minds. They can feel each other's anxieties. They can sense
and
each other's...
And the disorientation of it at first, too. And you feel it as a reader. You don't really know what's going on either.
We even also get a clip. There's another contestant who runs out of his cell and he's like holding his ears and screaming in agony. And he basically runs directly into the mouths of one of the horrific demons in the arena. And Oraya's like, what the fuck is wrong with him? And Raihn is like, we are the exception here, man. Other people cannot bear the weight of another person's mind in their mind as easily as the 2 of us are. And so we get this hint, right, that they are better than everyone else, to be honest.
Well, they're intelligent, but they already have a bond between them. And their trust is real, too. So it was disorienting because they didn't know what was going on. But once they did, she wasn't frightened of having him in her mind, and he was not with her. So there was no need to freak out.
But basically, they battle their way across this arena. They're killing all of these monsters. There's a moment where Oraya realizes that she knows who Raihn is battling's weakness and figures out who his partner is. And she goes and kills his partner so that Raihn can ease. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so
clever.
It's so clever. You are so smart. This is so incredible.
That's the thing. We don't need to see what everybody else is doing and struggling around, because you are so into this whole entire sequence between the 2 of them. And it's so well written. Like, this is a hard thing to write and to translate so we can absorb it and it makes sense to us too. And it does. There's never a second where I'm like, I don't understand what's happening here. There's never a moment. It's all very, very clear and easy to understand. It's one of the best. It's probably the best fight sequence in the entire book.
I would agree with that. Because in the next trial, it's not really fighting. Basically, there's a moment they're battling their way to the top, and Raihn gets taken out by Angelica, right? One of the bloodborne vampires that's been a nuisance to them the whole time. And so Oraya basically makes the choice to self-sacrifice herself and come back down the mountain from the gates that would have led her away and to the next trial. She would have been safe. She comes back down to battle with Ivan, Angelica's partner. And basically, he manages to take control of her body with his bloodborne magic and knocks her into a pile of demons who basically frenzy over her. And she is unable to control her body. And this is the moment where she's about to die, genuinely about to die, that her night fire explodes. And it's Raihn who coaches her to it. Literally in her mind, she's trying to talk herself out of her fear. And he's like, no, fear is the key, Oraya. That's how you fucking blew me out a window. Use it. And she erupts and she basically turns into this flaming goddess. There's a very throne of glass moment in this that I love. Yes. And she like hurls these demons. You have no idea what other vampires are in her way. It doesn't matter. Anyone in her way is being burned. And she marches to the top of the mountain in the middle of the Colosseum to get out. And it's not until she's all the way up there, just like flames unfurling from her. This is my very scientific way of describing that. And finally, she pauses and her night fire dims and goes away. And Raihn is basically at her feet like a goddess. He's just like bowing at her feet. And he sweeps her up into a hug. And you're just like, oh my God, like she can be not only be vulnerable with him by allowing him into her mind, but he is like, you are incredible. This is this irreverent moment where he's professing not his love for her, but basically, without saying it exactly like that, she takes a glimpse at Vincent, who's basically old man clutching the side of the Colosseum and like holding his heart because he thought she had died with the demons. And she realizes she doesn't care.
Nope. And that was a sincere moment from Vincent because once again, this is why it's understandable to feel conflict as a reader. If you're watching this, you're like, oh, but he does love her and care about her. Yes, he does, but that doesn't mean that he's not an asshole or a piece of shit. He cares about her, but because he cares about her doesn't mean that he gets to treat her however he feels comfortable treating her in a moment. I just think it's so perfect that that moment happens while Raihn is holding her.
Yes. And I think that's very intentional, right? She's finally being vulnerable enough with Raihn, and she glances to Vincent thinking he will be judging her or angry with her or whatever, and realizes she doesn't care and notices that he's having actually maybe one of his first genuine dad moments where he's like, oh my God, my daughter almost just died. And she's like, yep, actually, I don't care. And then she and Raihn basically walk off into the sunset. Peace out, goodbye, through the archway back into the Moon Palace.
And then it fades out. So at the beginning of every part, we get an interlude. The first one started with Oraya when she was a little girl when Vincent found her and she bit him. And then we see these other pieces of their relationship. And I think at the beginning of 4, we saw something with a turned vampire that she was having some sort of relationship with. At the beginning of this one, we initially learn that Oraya is finally starting to hide things from Vincent, like this vampire. At the beginning, we had no idea that she had any independence outside of him. This is completely natural and normal for a young girl anyway.
Yes.
Searching, and not just a young girl, but add into the element of the fact that she has no one other than Vincent and how lonely she must be. And she connects with this younger vampire and they have a relationship. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like it was a consensual, okay relationship. But then they have sex.
Yeah. So trigger warning here. We are about to talk about some sexual violence and some sexual assault. So listen at your own peril. We will probably in a minute or two be done, so feel free to fast forward. But yes, they have sex and it turns into his bloodlust during. And this is a moment where I'm screaming at the book going, Vincent, look what you've done. You did not know. Well, or not he didn't know. I don't know that I care. But he did nothing to teach her how to safely interact with these vampires because of course you can't just trap her in a corner of the castle and expect her to stay there like an obedient dog. Truly, I think he thinks of her as a pet, which is funny that we get that reference so much. But he's like, well, what could you possibly want more? And it's like, Of course she wants relationship. Of course she wants kinship. Of course she wants love and care and affection.
That's her humanity, though, and he's not. And he's not just a vampire. He is a vicious, nasty vampire who's hell-bent on domination of all the vampires. And I think one of the things that this does that I haven't really read in a lot of books, period, not just fantasy, but it does a really good job of showing that moment of you can be in the middle of sex and it's consensual, and then it stops being consensual.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this is something people have a lot of issues with, and they're wrong.
Right.
The second it's no longer you want a thing, it needs to stop. That person has no right to your body whatsoever.
Yeah.
And in this instance, they show it as a bloodlust instead of just a guy doing whatever he wants. But we know what it
It's a mirror for both. Yeah.
Exactly. And this part made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
This part made me cry because how many women have been there?
Right. How many of us have experienced some version of wanting it and then realizing, actually, that's not what I wanted, or this isn't going the way that I thought, or you're not respecting my boundaries or my limits, or you're not listening to me anymore, and now it doesn't feel safe. And again, consent is continuous and constant and should be enthusiastic at all times. So the moment it stops being any of those things, it is allowed to be revoked with no question. But in this bloodlust, we also get her like deep vulnerability, but in a way that is actually really raw and scary. She has no tools whatsoever. She doesn't know how to interrupt a vampire in the middle of bloodlust. She doesn't know what to do.
No,
and these are the moments that I get so angry with Vincent of like, yes, you don't understand her humanity, but in doing so, you made her vulnerable in a way that was actually genuinely a threat to her life.
Because she felt that subservience to vampires, because that's what he taught her. And I don't think it's any fucking surprise that she started murdering them after this. Those two are totally connected because she knows down to the day when she started killing vampires.
Yeah.
There's no doubt she started doing that to take her power back. And good girl.
Exactly. Truly, she does such a beautiful job taking her own power back because Vincent tries to repair it, right? So she has this moment with the boy. He is pulled off of her. Someone hears her screaming and comes and rescues her and pulls him off just in time. She's had an incredible
if it was
amount of
Vincent,
blood.
he would have been torn to shreds.
Right. But Vincent finds out, of course, and he offers her the murder of this vampire. And she understands that if she does not murder this vampire, like her dad will be disappointed. This is again that transition moment where she starts killing her own vampires after this. And he makes the comment of, you have to push hard to make it through the breastbone. And that comment comes back constantly every time she kills a vampire, that you have to push hard enough to make it through the heart. And she is horrified. She did love him. She did like him. It was a moment of weakness that absolutely could have been repaired or worked through. This boy is horrified that he did this. He lost his own control, right? Like, we even lose the ability to do beautiful repair.
Yeah.
Gone. And so Oraya is like, I now have to do something with this trauma. My dad forced me to murder my love.
After being violated by your love, like, oh my God, let it just pile up more and more.
Truly. It is really tender and raw. And these are the moments where I'm like, Carissa, who are you? Like, what have you gone through? Because man, we, especially as women reading this, like can see a lot of our own experiences in these really dark moments. And that's one of the reasons I love Oraya so much, right? She turns and decides, I'm going to take this power back myself. I am going to use what you trained me to do for my own good, my own desires. And so this is where she shifts into her own vigilante moment and starts killing the vampires in the human districts. What can I do to keep others safe? Because I wasn't kept safe. Not really. Yep. Not actually.
Yep. And I don't think she ever really acknowledges it as a way of herself not being a victim again either. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think she goes to do it to protect others because she doesn't want anybody else to have to experience that. And that is beautiful and sad all at the same time.
And so human.
Yes. And she doesn't even know it. Like she had no connection in her, like consciously in her cerebral mind, she has no idea that she's been human all along and she's had these human experiences all along. because she's had to internalize them all. She's had no one to share them with until there was Ayanla. And then we lost her, which is why she carries her scarf through the whole damn book.
And in the next part, she wears it.
Yes!
So we get the feast and the ball. And one of the things I wanted to point out about this scene, so they get done with the trial. The Moon Palace offers them all of these healing potions, all of these beautiful baths, all of these fragrances and scents, which is really odd to me because
Thought the same thing.
vampires have heightened senses. So, like, wouldn't that be really painful to smell perfume? I feel like it would be too much.
I agree.
And it takes away every other article of clothing she could have possibly worn. So it is very clear that, like, the Moon Palace determined you will wear this dress to this feast after the trial is over to celebrate. Period. End of story. No ifs, ands, or buts.
And I'm curious about that too because of what Raihn ends up having to wear.
Raihn has to wear the matching. And we find out that a lot of the other allied pairs had similar outfits as well, that this was a whole thing.
But his was from 200 years before. He's like, it's so out of fashion. It's from 200 years before. And I'm like, when he was a human.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And he remembers it. It's just those beautiful little nuggets that I love of Carissa's. But one of the things I wanted to point out is the first thing Vincent says when he sees her at the feast is he criticizes her outfit.
Yep.
For being as revealing as it is. And he's basically not saying like, oh, it's too sexy. He's saying you look too human in it.
That's exactly it. And then there just becomes like this very, very interesting back and forth between the two of them here. She's pissed. She's like, you said you weren't going to hurt him. You said you weren't going to hurt him. I needed him to survive. And look what you did to him. And Vincent, the picture perfect narcissist, turns it around on her. I didn't think it was that bad.
He looked fine to me.
He was fine. Yeah, there were no problems there. No big deal. And this is why the scene is so difficult too, because there's that back and forth between the two of them, between sincerity and between his manipulatory behavior. And it's so gross and sad at the same time because I feel for her. And at the same time, I have that longing too of wanting this person that's incapable of love to love you the way you deserve to be loved.
Right. Which, like, ow, my heart. Also at the feast, we get our first inkling that Raihn may not have been telling her the truth.
Yes.
So Oraya walks out. She has a few dances with Vincent, which is her only like normal daddy-daughter moment of this whole fucking book. She walks out into the gardens and runs into Septimus, who's of House of Blood. And he's talking about having bet on her and blah, blah, blah. And Raihn walks up and Septimus makes a comment where he calls Oraya by a different name. He calls Oraya Nessinen and then walks it back. Oh, I'm sorry, Oraya. And you see Raihn get visibly flustered. He stiffens up and she immediately clocks it and goes, what the fuck was that? And he dismisses it. And it's our first little inclination, our little first tiny thread of like, wait, we've gone on this beautiful journey together. We've done all of this beautiful vulnerability. And also, is there something you haven't told me?
Because we've seen Septimus like 2 times in the book and in very brief moments, but we know from those 2 moments that he's a slimy, sleazy, just bad dude. There's no doubt about it. There's no question about it. What is going on? Because clearly there is something else going on here.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where your hackles rise and you're like, what?
Then after that, they go back and they're like, let's blow this place. This is not a party. Why don't we go to the human districts and go to the bar and drink cheap, shitty beer, which I so thoroughly appreciate.
It's such a cute part of the story. It's so adorable to me.
And they do get tipsy. They drink, they hang out, they have fun, and they tell each other stories. And it's like this really great bonding moment. And we've been through so much at this point too, that we need this downtime. We need this bonding between them. As a reader, we need to feel safe. And then right after they go to visit Mish.
Yes. This is when they visit Mish, where she has been taken to spend time with Raihn's friends to recover, which she needs because she's still doing badly and is very tender. But Mish clocks it immediately that they have gotten closer and that they have really, truly clicked together and are basically about to become a couple. She's like, oh, I see y'all.
Yeah, you guys don't know yet, but I know. And then they go back to the Moon Palace. And then the next nasty, dirty thing that happens in the Moon Palace is the blood is gone. There is no more blood to be drank. Raihn assures Oraya that he's been hoarding, so he has enough and it's fine. So for weeks, they seem like they're okie day and they're getting along. They're training together. They're working on the magic. They're working on the sparring. And then Oraya does what I think is one of the most romantic things ever in the whole world. She sets up the mirrors so he can watch the sunrise and sunset.
Yes. It's the sweetest moment. I agree with you. I think it's maybe one of the most romantic parts of any of these fantasy stories we've ever read.
Yep.
Because we find out that he basically stands in front of the windows to see the sun because he wants to feel human again. He wants to feel the sun on his face. He does so honestly to the point of pain. And so she sets up the mirrors in such a way that he can see the sun without feeling the pain of it. And he doesn't know what to do with it. He thanks her for it. And then she just goes into her room and shuts the door. And it's like, too close.
Okay. Yeah. But it was such beautiful, beautiful, vulnerable moment. And then what follows that, unfortunately, is really rough. It's clear that he's starving. They've had, for like a week, they've had other vampires. They're hearing their footsteps back and forth outside their room. But she can tell that he is now. And immediately she's like, you have to go.
Yeah.
You have to go. And it's no coincidence that we read at the beginning of this chapter, the interlude of her being with a vampire that she trusted, a turned vampire on top of that, and took advantage of her. So she has all of this trauma that she's being triggered by in a similar situation, except here she has nobody to save her.
Right. She has to save herself. And by doing so, and with the relationship that they have built together, she's able to say, you got to go. I don't want you to go. I want you to be able to stay. She realizes he has been pushing his resolve as far as truly possible. She's amazed by how starved he is as he sips the last tiny bits of blood from the goblet. And also, this is the moment where we flash back to Nyaxia being benevolent. Sometimes she will give until she decides not to give anymore. And she realizes, like, you've done all you can. Like, you got to go. I have to now step in and save myself.
And it's the right choice. And he, not being total and complete Raihn, but still there, he is not happy about it.
No.
Because he feels like she doesn't trust him and that she should, and he should be able to control himself because he cares about her so much that he will.
Mm-hmm.
But because he is also Raihn, he struggles with those things, but he does agree to leave.
Yeah. And this is where we get what I think is the most fucked up entrance to a trial of all of them so far.
Agreed.
Like, they are dropped into this misty world, right? She doesn't think they're in the Colosseum again. It feels different. And there's a lot of mist everywhere. And she notices that there are dead animals on the ground that are not quite right, but she can't put her finger on it. And basically you learn, and I will admit, this almost made me nauseous when I read it the first time.
Yeah.
You find out that the point of this trial was to starve the vampires so that they were so hungry, they were so bloodthirsty by the time they entered the trial that they feed off of these. There's deer, I think there's bunnies, there's a few other animals that are poisoned.
So they're ravaging them because they're starving and they don't have any ability to think. Mm-hmm. And they are succumbing to their own bloodlust, which ironically is the thing that Oraya has been warned about this whole entire time. So what should she do as a little human? She should stay hidden through this one, right? But no, because what thought crosses her mind? Raihn.
I have to save Raihn.
She sent him out of the room to protect herself. She's like, nope, I'm going to risk everything because I don't want him to die. She didn't want to die by his hand and knew that there was an opportunity for both of them to live. Here, she's not thinking. She's having an emotional response, and it's the right one.
It is the right one, which is really interesting. Even though he is truly at the brink, she convinces him, right, not to feed off of any of these animals. She's like, they're poisoned. You must listen to me. I think she almost like knocks him off a cliff.
Yeah. It was very close when he comes to.
And finally, she knocks a little bit of sense into him, and they find a cave to hide in, basically until the frenzy has passed. And we're also led to believe that there's like gas in the mist is maybe also poisoned. It's very confusing, but also that's the point. It's supposed to be really chaotic and overwhelming. And she, in the cave, ultimately allows him to feed from her.
Okay, first of all, two things here. Yeah, you go ahead and breathe, girl. So there's a green flag moment before that happens. He apologizes. He tells her she was right and she did the right thing. He said, you were right. Motherfucker, thank you! Okay, I just had to let that out because That does not happen very often, and it's beautiful.
No, it was perfection. And this is where you and I have talked about the male main characters in these books, these romantasy books, are so attractive to us because they are able to do emotional intelligence, actual, real emotional intelligence, which includes when you fuck up, owning it.
Yes. And what you get to see on the other side is, oh my goodness, you don't lose power in the relationship because you do that. What you gain is someone who trusts you more. And then you get more vulnerability from them because you become a safe person to them. You allow each other to make mistakes because you can work on them and correct them together.
Yeah.
All of that. All of that. That's
And
part of the reason I love these stories is because of that.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it's so sexy. And I think him apologizing the way that he does is what actually opens her up to acknowledging that he might be a safe enough person. She recognized that it comes with risks no matter what, but he's a safe enough person to feed from her, to drink her blood. He puts her in the most sexy, oh my God, the most sexy position ever, but her on top of him so that she can control. He gives her her dagger to hold. She puts all of the consent in her hands to start with. And it is hot. It's so hot. The sweatshirt is too thick right now.
And here we go with Carissa and her fucking beautiful romantic lines. One of them that I probably should just have tattooed on my booty or something because it's so beautiful that if I ever actually am reading it myself, I'll probably just cry. And it's her voice in her head while he's kissing her after he drinks from her. Kisses over the fresh scar that I asked for. Kisses over the old one that I didn't.
Carissa! It's so stunning. There are probably 100 lines like that I could pluck out of any of her books where you are just so moved by how beautiful it is. Like, truly, the pain of the past mixed with the pleasure of the present. That Raihn is so focused on making her feel good again, giving her choice, healing these past wounds, literally. Yeah, I love it.
And that tenderness is after the blood drinking, which, as Morgan's sweating over there and me sweating over here, it is hot.
Also, an interesting contrast that shows up is how sexy this moment is. And also the reminder we are still in a deadly trial that you must get through in order to survive to the next trial, to get to the end. And so we have this beautiful moment in the cave, and eventually they realize we have to leave the cave and we have to go outside to get to the end of the trial. And they find out that the gas that is being emitted, they have to make it to the top of some ravine or something like that in order to get to the gate to leave. And the gas is being emitted in these like 90-second bursts. And so even though this is not a trial that is intended to be a ally, like they're not supposed to be paired up, their only chance of survival is working together. So he flies her in these chunks to get to the top.
This cloak to cover themselves with.
Yep. And to try and cover up to protect his wings so he can keep flying. She counts in his ear while he's flying to 90, and he basically lands, and they cover themselves with the cloak, and they do their best to not get fucking poisoned and like truly burned. It truly felt like gas chamber-ish. It was really gross.
Yeah. I was thinking Chernobyl. Again, how fucking smart is Oraya? Raihn is smart too, not to take that away from him. But most of these ideas come from her.
Right. She's the one who observes, does that constant observing that we're talking about, places the plan together, says it out loud, and he goes, got it. Yep. Ready to go. It's the only way that they survive. They get to the end. Ivan is there trying to avenge from the last trial. We get our first don't fucking touch her, which is basically adjacent to touch her or die, which is my favorite. And they survive the trial, but not before realizing that this trial existed and happened in the ruins of her hometown.
Salome. Yep. So it has been destroyed by none other than Daddy Vincent. Everything that Raihn said was 100% on point.
And she is devastated, and it's the first time we get her raging mad.
And it's scary.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to mess with Oraya.
I
want to be on Oraya's team. I don't I don't want to make her angry.
I want her protecting me.
Me too. Me too. I want to just be a part of her and Raihn and their little bubble and just take me along the journey with you.
But that is basically where we end part 5. That we end
Yeah.
with the end of that trial and her realizing that it's Salome and her pissed that Vincent lied to her.
Yep. So
Again.
we have 2 parts left to this. I think part 5 is my favorite in the whole book.
Yeah, it's really good.
So much great stuff happens there. The connection between Oraya and Raihn is beautiful and lovely. And it really, really sets us up for the last 2 parts, which are shorter.
Yes.
But holy crap.
They are packed.
Yes. There's
Packed.
so much coming. I am really looking forward to it. I want to keep going right now.
Me too. Me too. It's just one of those stories that I just want to talk about endlessly for hours and hours and hours because it's so gorgeous. But I do, speaking of stories that we love, what are your top 3 favorite vampire stories of all time?
Okay, so this was very difficult for me. Number 3, I went with the Sookie Stackhouse series. Oh my gosh, I just read them last year. Incredible. So much fun. Number 2, The Serpent and the Wings of Night. Like, not even a question. And number 1, it has to be the Vampire Chronicles. I wouldn't probably be reading half of what I'm reading if not. And I'm actually going through them all on audio right now, revisiting them after years and years. They're part of the reason I love reading is Anne Rice and the Vampire Chronicles. So those are mine. What are yours?
My number 3 is Quicksilver by Callie Hart.
There's
It is
vampires
not-
in it.
I was going to say, it's not a vampire story, but it has vampires in it. And oh my God, Kingfisher could do dirty, dirty things to me all day long. And I'd be very happy. Number 2 is Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, Carissa Broadbent. So it's one of the standalone books in Crowns of Nyaxia. And I love it. The magic in that one is so cool. The main female character is physically blind, but also her magic lets her see. It's so cool. I won't spoil it anymore, but man, that's such a good book. And then my number 1 is just Crowns of Nyaxia, is the whole series. They're just so good. Carissa writes vampires in such a way that I'm sucked in from the jump. I love it so much.
You're sucked in.
And then I have 2 honorable mentions. Do you have any honorable mentions?
One of them is I Am Legend by Robert Matheson. The movie is not even close to the same as the book. It is very much so vampires. It's one of the most scary things I've ever read. I love it. Highly recommend it. That book gives me nightmares in a most beautiful way. Other one, Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love Dracula. I read it, reread it every couple of years. It's beautiful. It's all of the things I love about vampires.
Yeah, that's
and
a
I
good
just
choice.
want to recommend 2 new ones. The one I just read is a new series. It's called Wings of Blood. This one is a new series, and it is also vampire dark academia with like this bully stuff going on. It's really popular right now, and it is brutal, and I'm in love with it. And the last one I was one of my first audiobooks that I picked up this year, and it was Bride. I did not expect to like it. It was playful and fun and silly. It was more like a mafia romance, vampires versus werewolves, but it was cutesies and whatever. It entertained the shit out of me.
It's been on my list forever, Bride. People say really wonderful things about Allie Hazelwood, so I'm excited to get into that.
It's a good time. It's all vibes. So you will dig it.
Okay, my 2 honorable mentions. I have the Flesh and Fire series by Jennifer Armentrout, and I want to be clear, Flesh and Fire, not Blood and Ash. Anyways, that's all I'll say about that. And then my second honorable mention is Zodiac Academy.
Yeah, they're vampires, right?
Well, so they consider it fae, and then under the fae, there are vampires and werewolves and unicorns and dragons. And there's literally, pick a mythical creature, and it's in Zodiac Academy. I really enjoyed that series. It's just fucking lighthearted, good fun. It gets a little tense and intense, and it's a very long series, but man, does it not take itself too seriously. And vampire bits in it actually are, I think, some of my favorite. So that would be on my list as well.
Awesome.
What are you currently reading?
Woo! I have just started Fearless.
I'm jealous. I need to pick that up.
I so missed Pei and Kai. I'm just at the beginning, but oh my gosh, it's good. And I cannot believe Lauren Roberts is so young and has written this so well. She understands
And a Michigander.
people. Yes! I'm very, very excited. So I'll be continuing that.
I'm excited.
What have you been reading, darling?
I am finally reading Cursebound by Sarah El Arafi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. This is the second in the Feybound series. And oh my God, the first one was so good. So I'm so excited to read the second one. So far, it's just as beautiful as the first one. So I love it.
All right. Where can everyone find you on the interwebs?
On Instagram, you can find me at moduro, and on Storygraph at moduro. What about you?
You can find all of my stuff at heatherbaxendale.com. My books are on there. All of my social media is on there. Follow me at your own risk. And and you can find all the podcasts and other goodies that I do on there as well.
We will be back for our next episode, which will be our buddy read of Bloodguard by Cece Robson, which we are so excited about. For future buddy read episodes, we are going to be crowdsourcing what we read. So keep an eye out on our social medias for the polls and vote for what you'd like to read along with us next.
And that's been our show. Stay filthy. Thank you for listening to A Pot of Wings and Filth. This show is hosted, produced, and magically edited by Heather Baxendale and Morgan DeRocher. The music used is Magistar by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. You can find our podcast on all streaming services at wingsofFilth.podomatic.com. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at A Pot of Wings and Filth. Please give us a follow and a rating. Your support helps us so much. Here is just a collection of physical responses.